Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Co-op Podcast, episode 197. I'm your host, Richard Billy Jr., and today I'm joined by Mr. Gary A. Swaby. How's it going, Gary?
It's going good, man. Looking forward to this show.
Absolutely. We're also joined by Mr. Jake James Lugo. How's it going, Mr. Lugo?
I'm doing good, Rich. I hope you're doing all right now that you're back from GDC.
Absolutely. And we are joined by Mr. Max Muller. How's it going, Max?
It's going pretty good, man.
All right, good to hear. So, there's definitely going to be a lot to talk about this week. I will have something to say about GDC, but before we jump into all of that, we're going to let you all know what we have been playing. So, Gary, how about you go first and let us know how many Overwatch matches you've been playing this week?
I kind of lost count how many matches, but yeah, I've been playing a lot of Overwatch. Of course, you know the new season is on. I like how because when they updated the game, they actually put in like a little Easter egg that kind of sets up the new character that's gonna come out. And then earlier this week, they also revealed the character as well. Like that's gonna be coming out in the game soon. So I like that little touch that they did. They added that little there's like a little spot they added in the map where there's like this robot character who's been blasted into the wall kind of thing, and you get to see like his body in the wall, and it's on one of the maps that you usually play and stuff. So I like that little touch, how they added that in there just to set up the new character that's going to be in the game. And the new season started, and it's been going very well for me so far. I can't remember my exact rank at the moment, but I've been winning a lot of matches, which is good. So yeah, still having a lot of fun with Overwatch. I've also been playing Mass Effect because I wanted to replay. My idea was to replay the entire trilogy before Andromeda, but I don't think I'm going to have enough time to get through all of them because I'm still on Mass Effect 1. And I'm at the tail end of Mass Effect 1 now. And I love that game. Like I've said it all already over the past few weeks. I can't wait for Andromeda to come out, and I hope it's as good as the last trilogy. And I've also been playing a game called Horizon Zero Dawn, which I started the other day, and that so far, I'm not too early into. I'm early into that game, so I'm not too far. And that game so far is as it's as amazing as people are saying it is. I definitely think they did a great job with the visuals. The only thing with the visuals, it looks amazing. Definitely one of the best console games I've seen in terms of visuals. But when I see the beards and the facial hair and stuff like that, I can't help but thinking how much better it would look on PC. It would just look that much sharper, I think. But still, it's a very amazing looking game. So far, I'm loving the gameplay itself. Definitely takes a lot of cues from The Witcher 3. And we have a topic related to that later on as well. But yeah, great game, superb game so far. I definitely have to give Sony a W with this one because this is a fantastic game. But yeah, I'm looking forward to playing some more of that soon. But that's pretty much all I've been playing this week.
All right, I just want to make a quick comment. You've done a good job developing a game if Gary says that he wishes the game was on PC. So I just wanted to make a comment about that because that was very interesting.
Yeah, man, I couldn't help thinking that because I see a lot of people praise the visuals, and rightfully so. It does look amazing. Definitely, probably one of the best console games this generation, hands down. But still, it could be that much better on PC. It could be that much sharper. So it's just something that PC gamers do. We always imagine just how much sharper a game would look on PC. But it's great on the PlayStation though. I'm not gonna lie. And it probably looks great on the Pro as well.
Oh, yeah. I believe that Carlos on the Throwdown would confirm that the game looks fantastic on PlayStation 4 Pro, as well as Tony, who actually reviewed the game. So, hey, maybe I'll get to try it out. I mean, I've already downloaded the game. but I have not had the time to play it. I'll explain why soon. But as for what the rest of us have been playing, Mr. Lugo, how about you let us know what you've been playing?
So there's basically two main things I've been playing, one of which I can only comment so much on. I've been playing Ghost Recon Wildlands. If you guys remember, I talked a while back. I was involved in both betas, the closed and the open beta, and now I'm actually writing the guide for IGN for Ghost Recon. So I can only say that the game is massive because we're still under embargo, and the embargo lifts tomorrow. So more than likely on the next co-op podcast next week, probably after PAX East, I'll be able to talk more openly about the game and, my impressions and stuff. But that's one thing that's been taking up a lot of my time. But the other one also was Street Fighter V, and specifically Street Fighter V because the new character Koalition came out recently for season pass holders, or again, other people that have been getting the different characters as they come along for season 2 of the game. So originally, I wanted to have an impressions up on the site, like what I did for Akuma. If you guys remember, if you haven't seen it yet, go up on the Koalition.com right now. I have impressions of Akuma being playable in Street Fighter V. That happened right after PSX, and I wanted to do the same exact handling of that with Koalition. The problem that I was running into, and one of the reasons why we don't have that done yet, is because the Street Fighter V servers suck, like straight up, like no nonsense, joking around. It's that the servers and the connections to other players and stuff have just not been that great. And it's a real tough process to comment and get impressions on a character when you're not getting involved in good matches, just matches that are laggy, that are skipping, and all these other things. What I will say, though, is that much like Akuma in the last DLC that came out, Koalition only has one story mode fight, which it seems like it's going to be par for the course for all the characters coming out for Street Fighter V, all the new characters that come out as part of the season pass or the character pass. And it is what it is. So you get very little story. It kind of doesn't make a little bit of sense. Her story really kind of covers a few instances at the very beginning of Street Fighter V's narrative, because in order to get what she's actually there for, you have to play the actual general story mode. That was the other separate DLC from a while back. And she's a little bit more involved. Koalition is the assistant to Gil from Street Fighter Third Strike, and it kind of ties into that. But other than that, you're not really getting much from Koalition other than just playing with her as a character. So that's what I've been playing for most of the time.
Yeah, they really need to fix those server issues, because I know that just from watching your stream as well, I know when you play people on the PC, the connection is so terrible. And I've experienced the same thing, because I play on PC. And I noticed when I play someone on PlayStation, the connection is just super laggy. So
yeah.
They need to fix that, because it's great that they have that cross-play feature. But, if it's going to lead to lag most of the time, then, it's probably not even worth it, having it.
That's the thing. It's normally, in an instance like that, I would try to get another person to do local play and just play like that and play 50 plus matches or something. But, it's a little difficult right now for me. So I have to rely on online play. And that it could be a little bit of a pain in the butt, because Koalition, one of her things is that she relies heavily on counterattacks. She has 3 different types of counters for different types of attacks that are coming from your opponent. And she's very strong in that regard. But trying to actually get the timing right in an already laggy game, because remember, Street Fighter V has the most input lag of any fighting game to date right now. It originally was 8 frames of input lag, but now it's gotten down to, I think it's about 6.5 frames or 6 frames of input lag, which is still a lot. Normally, the input lag from when you press a button to when you actually see a reaction on screen is about 4 frames or less, depending, which is acceptable, especially for online play. That's how it usually works out. But that doesn't seem to be the case sometimes with Street Fighter V. And it can be a little difficult when you're trying to counter attacks with a character that heavily relies on that strategy besides whatever combos she could do. That could be a real frustrating experience. So that's one of the reasons why we don't have that just yet on the site. I'm hoping, if I'm lucky and if the servers decide to behave, we can have that sometime later this week. If not, again, we'll probably just talk about it again on the next co-op podcast.
So is she more so just a combo character, or does she have any fireballs or any crazy moves?
She has projectiles, but they're not projectiles like a Hadoken or anything of the sort. She has some projectiles that are related to other moves. She has this one pop-up move that it looks kind of like a Dragon Punch motion, but if you're up close to her, she hits you. And she has a little ice projectile that appears behind the character that hits them. So you could use it in different ways. You could either hit them up close from a combo, or you could hit them with a projectile from far distance, or use the projectile as a follow-up to a combo and then continue the combo afterwards. But really, her strength lies in the counters. her counters do a lot of damage, and she has 3 different ones based on the type of strength of your punch attack that you do, whether it's low attacks, standing attacks, medium attacks, or jumping attacks that are coming at you, high attacks. And those could be devastating at the right moments because they could come out so unexpectedly. But if you miss them, which is usually par for the course sometimes online, you can really be punished really badly for them. And you take a lot of damage on counter hit and stuff. So that could be a real pain in the butt. But other than that, she's very versatile as far as, being able to link up into interesting combos that do a lot of damage, being able to be offensive or defensive. I think that's pretty cool. So she's really technical, I will say, in that regard. Again, as far as like being adaptable to what's going on in the matchup. She's not combo heavy and she's not overly defensive. She could be either or, which is cool.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we understand the technical issues that you can have with that game. I would hope that Capcom would get better about being prepared for these types of issues. But hopefully you will be able to tell us more about it this week, either on the site or on the next podcast.
There's going to be a lot more I'll be able to talk about probably on the next co-op because we got this, and then obviously I'm going to talk about Ghost Recon. I think that's going to be the bigger game now that's this week that's coming out.
Absolutely. Sounds good. So Mr. Max Muller, what have you been playing?
Sadly, not a whole lot. It's finals week next week, so I've been spending a lot of my time studying. But lately, I've just been playing the regular Halo 5. My brother and I actually got into trying to do the Gears 4 Insane campaign, which is more ridiculous than I thought because you can't revive anyone. Like, if you get down, you just don't get down, you die instead. So you can't be revived. And if one of you dies, you have to restart each checkpoint. So doing like some of the horde moments in the campaign are just the moments where you're getting swarmed a lot and you'll go down in like 3 bullets. So we're kind of getting screwed over and spending a lot of time doing one level. Like it's kind of been one level a night. So we just finished Act 1 because it's been like 5 nights. And it's a totally different way of playing Gears. I'm just not used to it. You have to stay in cover most of the time. And everyone will just destroy you if you try to go up in their face. So you have to play a lot smarter. And then I've been playing a small indie roguelite game called Sublevel Zero Redux for review on the Koalition. And I'm enjoying it so far. It hasn't been anything a lot more standout than your normal roguelite. It like kind of nails all of the solid elements of them and the solid gameplay elements of it. But I don't think it really does anything to improve on them. Even though there's still a lot I have to go, that's been my general impression so far. So we'll have to see if that changes when I get further into the game. But other than that, that's pretty much it for this week.
Sounds good. Absolutely. So what I've been playing. Well, this week I actually was at GDC, so I played a ton of games. Maybe too much. Let me go ahead and say this right now. Actually, with GDC 2017, I was there on Wednesday through Friday. Well, Saturday, actually, because I came back yesterday. I actually am planning to do a separate podcast to talk in length about all of the games that I played, as well as the overall experiences. But for the purposes of today's show, I'm going to just tell you guys what my main takeaways were from GDC. A couple of games that I had a good time with. And, I'll also be taking, you guys are free to ask questions. This is everybody on this panel, as well as if you're watching the show live, feel free to ask any questions, and I will do my best to answer. Now, let me say right now, I did play a few titles that aren't really announced yet. They're under a strict embargo, so I cannot talk about any of that stuff. But I will tell you what I did play. So in terms of what I've actually played, I did get a chance to play Injustice 2. I have a preview that I'm writing right now for that, and you can expect to see that by the time this episode gets posted up on the site tomorrow. Injustice 2 is pretty much the same game it was before, if you were a fan of the first game. But, they have this new gear system, which, every time you play a match, after the match is over, gear drops, and you can use that to further customize the fighters. So you can use that to customize the look. They even have the ability for you to gain new moves as well. So you can use that move, like say that you want to use it, you want to use a particular finisher. You can switch out that finisher and use a newly acquired finisher that that you've collected. So what I got from that particular, from playing the game and actually seeing the presentation, is that this is a game that is definitely going to be a lot, it has a longer shelf life, and it gives the developers a lot more time to add more to the game, because they can do a very good job supporting it, adding additional finishers, ultra finishes, so on and so forth. But the whole idea of it being a custom experience, I think, is very important, because then that guarantees that no Batman, Superman, or any other character you use online will ever look the same again. And from what I saw thus far, that's pretty great. They also introduced Dr. Fate, which as you guys, maybe you've already seen on the site. I did a post for that, as well as, the news is all over the place now. That was another character that they revealed. What I found out in that particular conversation is that they wanted to try and have a lot more characters that are heavily in the comics, but don't really have quite such a mainstream appeal or focus in other mediums. So they did say expect to see a lot more surprises in regards to that, because they want to give a lot of characters, their time to shine. I know DC has said that this is going to be the largest roster that they've ever put in a game. So from what I see so far, that looks like that's exactly what it's going to be. So definitely have to look forward to the game. And as for
I'll go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, no, go ahead. You had a question?
Yeah, I was gonna ask. So I might have missed some of that, but how many of the characters did you get to try?
Well, the demo that I played, there were only 6 characters available. Not all of the characters that are currently, I don't really know how many characters are in the beta, because I haven't played the beta. But a few of the characters that they reveal, like Cheetah, some of those characters weren't in the actual demo that I played. Dr. Fate was in there because that was the character that they revealed. Then of course you have Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, so on and so forth. But it was only a handful of characters. So that was great to see. One thing I did want to say, though, is that I didn't just play the multiplayer. I also played the first chapter of the actual campaign.
Oh, wow.
And, for those that, if you didn't play the first Injustice, maybe you should not, you might want to step away from your computer monitor, or, stop listening for at least the next 2 to 3 minutes. I'll just say this, the game does continue from the events that happened in the previous game. The first chapter is all about Batman. So you have a couple of encounters. If you've ever played a Mortal Kombat game or an Injustice game, you know how they make the storylines where you get to play as every character. But yeah, with Batman's, I got to have a couple of very interesting fights. One of which was actually Superman, and what happened after that fight was pretty interesting, because of it ties into the story, because with the story, it's like Batman and Superman are at odds, and there are certain people that they have to get on their team, before they face off. But it's very interesting, because what happens after you beat Superman, you don't really see that coming. It just comes out of nowhere. Where a character who you thought was loyal to Batman has now say, no, I'm not loyal to you anymore. So I don't want to give too many spoilers, but I'll just
a quick question there. Does Superman, like when Superman's fighting Batman, does he have a special move where he says the name Martha and it just...
That would be awesome. I'm sorry. Like, if I know Ed Boon in NetherRealm has like a huge sense of humor when it comes to stuff. If they somehow implemented that in there, I'm gonna hug that man the next time I see him, because that would be hilarious.
Yeah, that didn't happen, obviously. That would be cool. But it's just no. That doesn't happen. They do have a very interesting fight scene that takes place at Arkham Asylum, which I thought was pretty cool. But But that's all I'm going to say for that particular thing right now, because again, it's a game where, the story is part of the experience. The only thing that the two things that I did learn from that session, one of which, is a little bit disappointing, is that, they did confirm that they do not know if this game is going to be region locked yet. And, that was the issue with the last Mortal Kombat game, because I wanted to play the game with you, Gary. Pretty much everybody we know on the Koalition that lives in London was unable to do that on PlayStation 4. So Ed Boon has also said that he doesn't know either. So when he says that he's not sure if it's going to actually be that way, that's a bit of a concern. But with that said, the game was still fantastic, regardless of what system you play it on. I did play it on Xbox One and PlayStation 4 because they were both there. But it looks the same on both systems for the most part. It plays the same, performs the same. And it's a great game overall from what I've seen so far. So we'll have to see how the final product turns out, obviously. The game is out May 16th. But that was one of the bigger titles that I played during GDC. As I said, there's a lot of different titles that I played, a lot of indie titles, so on and so forth. And I'm going to do a separate podcast because I do want to give them shine individually so that they're not overshadowed by the other news we're going to get into. But one thing I will say is this, I'm going to just describe a few takeaways that I took away from going to GDC, actually. One thing that I love about GDC is that pretty much every meeting that I had there, it was at a hotel. It wasn't on the floor where it was just so many people condensed together. And when you do have those settings where you're in a hotel or office away from the site, that allows you to have more time to really take in everything that you're witnessing. And then you really have a further understanding as to what the game is trying to do, what the developers have done to create this idea. And it just allows you time to just put all your focus on that, not being distracted by, you hear maybe there's people off in the distance talking very loudly that you can hear them. It was none of that stuff. You have food was pretty much provided at every meeting as well. And that's something that, when you go to E3, you go to E3, you can eat, obviously, but you pay for everything. When I went to these meetings, all this stuff was complimentary. That was
at E3, don't they have like $8 slices of pizza or something like that?
No, it depends on where you go. Something like that. And for the record, most of us, when we go to eat at at E3 and stuff, we either go to one of a few places. We go either to Denny's, which is standard. We go to Smash Burger, which is like right outside the convention center, or we go to Yard House, which is when we want to go eat nice because it's a nice spot. But either way, for the most part, we're still doing our own thing when we're out there at E3. It's very seldom we'll ever get like complimentary stuff like that, because everybody's on the hustle most of the time at E3.
Actually,
yeah, the point is, if you go to E3, don't eat inside the convention center. Eat outside.
Oh yeah, don't eat inside, please. You'll thank yourself later.
Everybody, that's good advice, but I hope everybody listens to it. But a lot of people, I guess they will have to learn the hard way that I gotta eat inside that convention center. So we'll see what happens. But that is one thing, and E3 does occasionally have a few things that are off-site too, because last year when we had the Activision presentation, that was actually at a nearby hotel. That was fantastic, because again, these settings are a lot more intimate. They give you the opportunity to really sit down, listen to what they're saying about the game, see it in action. And then, you have any questions, you can ask questions, so on and so forth. So I appreciated that a lot about this, because almost every appointment that I had was off-site. So I enjoyed that. Another takeaway that I did take away from going to GDC, and this is something that I think Max will love to hear as well. I believe that indie developers deserve our undivided attention. I mean, I was really blown away with a lot of the stuff that people are working on and the ideas that they're basically trying to communicate to an audience. When you think about a lot of these games, big budget titles, such as we have Horizon Zero Dawn is out, Mass Effect. I mean, a lot of these titles, they have a lot of funding from a bigger name studios. So obviously, they do meet some kind of challenges, but not the kind of challenges that an indie development studio would meet, in the sense where you have a 30-man team, and you're trying to create something, but you do have a couple of limitations. What I learned by going to this event is that, there's a lot of great games out here that, unfortunately, a lot of bigger sites, they really don't show the attention to these games. And I understand that they have to remain loyal to their audience and focus on the bigger titles that get the most amount of traffic. But at some point, you have to also look at a lot of these indie titles, and you will understand very quickly that the ideas that they express in these games are sometimes better, and I would say better executed than some of the mainstream titles that are out there right now. There is one game in particular that I wish I could talk about, but I can't talk about it yet because it's a big title. It is created by the same guy that found Guerilla Games. But I can't talk about it now, but I would just say, when I saw this game and then I saw what they were doing with it, I was like, man, this is, I think a lot of people are going to learn from what they're doing, and they're going to try and do this in their own games as well. But I just think that there's a lot of games out there. You just have to give them a chance. And it's very hard for an indie developer to get the attention that they need to get if some people just don't give them the opportunity to actually get the coverage. So that is one thing I did learn, by going to GDC, because I guess you have a perception of, normally in the past, when I would go to these events such as E3, I'll be focused on, well, we got to get only the big titles, so on and so forth. My mindset has changed completely now, because you just do not know whether or not something is going to be good until you actually see it. And I saw a lot of stuff at this show that was just amazing.
I know that's definitely one of our goals for this year. We definitely want to help put spotlight on more of these indie games, and I know Max is going to help us with that too. So that's good that you saw a lot of that.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of these games, some of these games are going to be at PAX, so you guys will get to, like I said, I have a lot of things on writing now, so I will be sure to finish this stuff in a timely manner so that everybody who is going to PAX East knows about some of this stuff before they get there. Because some of these games you need to check out because they're worth checking out. Some games are only on PC. They're not quite on console yet. So those who do have consoles, I must apologize. You will be waiting a little while, but the stuff that's coming to PC, that also convinced me I need to hurry the hell up and get a game in PC immediately, because the titles that I've seen and how they look on PC, it's absolutely insane. So I did want to make mention of that. The indie developers definitely need a lot more attention. And I feel as though we will definitely do a better job of covering them moving forward. One last takeaway that I will give, because again, I didn't want to talk too much about GDC because I'm going to have a separate podcast for that. I think that when you think about something like the Game Developers Conference, the key word in that is the developers. I feel like when we've gone to E3 in the past, we see some of the developers on the floor. I mean, you really don't really get an understanding of how much they sacrifice to make these games. And I think that is something you really get a deeper understanding of when you go to an event like this. Like when I saw Mortal Kombat, the guys who were there, I spoke with one of the designers, told me that they were only going to be in town for 3 days. They didn't stay for all of GDC because they had to get back to Chicago and finish this game. Obviously, that's an example of a bigger studio, but even with the smaller studios, a lot of the people that were there, they are still heavily trying to finish games. There's a lot of games that are in alpha state. Some are coming out in May, so they're coming out really soon before E3. And then there are some that are coming out later this year, but you get a deeper sense of just how much they put into this title, what their initial idea was, and the lengths that they went to actually make this idea reality. And it's really hard to really describe what that feeling is like until you actually see it for yourself, and you actually talk to these people and you find out their passions, their interests, and what it takes for them to do this type of stuff. You really get a better understanding of that going to GDC, because other times, again, you go to a show like E3, majority of the time, it's a lot of major big name studios there. It's not really too many indie studios that I have seen at E3 in the last couple of years. And again, you're only thinking about, I got to schedule an appointment to go here, there. So you don't really take the amount of time to really process what exactly these developers are going through when they're making these games. Obviously, you get a better idea of that when you go to an event like this. So I definitely have a lot of respect for the developers, you know. And one thing that I have said, maybe a lot of people don't know this about me, is that I actually went to school for film, animation, video. I have been working on a couple of side projects that I haven't talked about because I don't want to talk about anything yet until it's done. But going to an event like this and being someone that actually has created content before, this definitely inspires you to also create content and get back into creating content. So it was eye-opening for me to see all of this stuff going on, because I'm like, so many people have so many great ideas they're executing and trying to communicate, but I have a few ideas that I need to communicate as well. So, you know, it's just was inspirational in that sense on a personal level. But overall, it was a great experience to go to. It's not something where you go to it and it's like E3, it's a massive show. The show is actually a little bit smaller than that. The panels are very, very insightful. And that is something that I think that they desperately need to have at E3, because, you know, if you're going to have public there, they need something else outside of waiting in long lines to play games. They need something else to say, okay, this is why you're at E3, to learn more about the industry as a whole. But honestly, going to a show like this, it really makes you appreciate the industry a lot more. I'm not into the whole thing about, you know, Xbox and PlayStation fans going at each other. I don't care about any of that stuff. When you go to an event like this, as a gamer and as someone who is, you know, a fan of the industry, it's like you get a deeper sense of this is what it's all about. It's not about people coming out here making controversial statements about this, you know, this company is in trouble, that company is in trouble. It's about none of that stuff. If you're a gamer, you want to see everybody become successful. That's Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony. Yes, we may not necessarily like every game that they release, or maybe they will be criticized because, you know, we don't know what their strategy is. But at the end of the day, if you're a gamer and you like if you're a gamer in general, you're going to, you know, be receptive to what any and every studio does. So I just wanted to make sure that I did say a couple of things about that. As I said, I do want to talk about a lot of the games that I played there, but that's going to be a separate podcast because we have a lot of other topics to get into. But I do want to ask you guys if you have any questions in particular about GDC you wanted to ask me, as well as any fans that may be watching live. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll do my best to answer them.
I do have two questions.
Okay.
Quickly. One is from Victor, who's in the chat right now. He asked if you played Cuphead there, or was Cuphead there?
Okay, that's a very good question. I actually did not see Cuphead there. This is a game where I have no idea if it, I mean, I would assume it is going to be at E3. I would assume that it is going to come out this year, but I don't know for certain if any of that's going to happen. I know that the guys that were making this game, it started out as just a boss battle game, but now it's a full-fledged platformer. So I'm not really sure how long it's going to take for them to work on that game, but there was a lot of indie games that were at E3 for Microsoft in particular, but that wasn't one of the games that I've seen there. So unfortunately, no, that wasn't there. But as soon as I do get a chance to check it out, I'll definitely let you know what I think about it.
Cool. And the second question is my question. So a lot of the events we went to last year was very VR focused. So I just wanted to ask, like, you know, did you get a sense of, like, you know, VR taking off and new concepts and ideas coming out for VR in the future? Or was it like basically was the interest level of VR like decreased from what we saw last year, basically?
Oh no, it's the exact opposite. The VR and AR, that was all over this conference.
Okay.
I mean, it's a lot of people working on a lot of different things. There's a couple of movies that came out where they had a tie-in where they did like a VR game on the side. I mean, they had a paranormal activity VR experience there, which was interesting. mean, the VR thing is definitely not a fad. You know, I still feel as though this is the year where you'll probably see a lot more content for that. But overall, no, this was a big deal at the show. I mean, they had a lot of setup booths for VR, a couple of panels on VR. So I mean, the industry is fully buying into this concept. But I would say we probably need to wait a little while before we actually see like full-fledged games. You know, Resident Evil 7, I think, was really the only recent first-party AAA title that, well, third-party, the AAA title that actually made use of VR throughout the whole campaign. A lot of the other stuff we've seen is like a little bit shorter demos. It's not really going to last quite as long. So I would feel VR really just getting started. And that show was an indication of that because it was everywhere, all over the show. So I'll be very curious to see what happens at E3 with that, because it looks like it's a very big deal right now.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear, because I was a bit concerned about, you know, VR from a gaming perspective, but it sounds like there's still a lot coming out for it, so that's good.
Oh yeah, it's probably gonna take a little bit more time. I didn't really see any like upcoming VR titles that are, you know, amazing, fantastic. Because again, one thing I will say, full disclaimer, you know, I got to GDC on a Wednesday. You know, typically it starts on Sunday for some and Monday for pretty much everybody. So I missed 2 days where I could have seen a lot more, but because of the scheduling and because of the timing, I wasn't really able to see everything that I needed to see on the floor. I mean, I explored the floor a couple of times, but I'm talking about actual sit down and play every single thing that was there. I played a couple of things, but more so a lot of the meetings I had offsite was where I played the most stuff. But yeah, you know, next year, I'll be sure to go there all 5 days. So I will be able to give more insight as to everything that I've experienced. But from what I experienced thus far, it was still a lot packed into those 3 days that, yeah, just very, very insightful, to say the least. But any other questions before we move on to the next topic?
I don't have any questions. It just sounded like you had an awesome time, man. Like that sounds really, really cool to go to. And it's awesome that indies are just putting this kind of new twist on everything that we're coming to know from games. It's really, really interesting. And just VR in general, just because I'm still, like, I was going to ask you if, based on what you saw there, makes you think that VR actually has a future. And you answered that right there. Like, you said that it changed your mind on it, or not changed your mind on it, but just like confirmed it, you know? That's so cool.
Oh yeah. So, you're absolutely right. I mean, I was somebody who I also didn't really know what the craze was with VR, but you know, when you go to shows like this, and I'm pretty sure you will see this at PAX East as well, it does have the support. I think San Francisco, because this is a more tech, this is a very, very high tech hub type of city. I think they have a much deeper focus on technology and VR more so than other areas. So this is why it had such a huge presence there. But I think this definitely is something that should be fully invested into. And going back to the actual indie stuff, yeah, man, the indie stuff to me was very, 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 very surprising. Because I knew indie games were good when I saw a couple of the games that was released over the last couple of years, but it's just like the ideas that they have in these games, though. It's just like it's very interesting when you think about certain things, and you don't want to compare it to other stuff that's out now, but when you do make that comparison, you find that they have some ideas that this hasn't been tried before, so this might be something that a lot of people may also jump on board quickly. But yeah, man, the indie presence there was powerful. Very glad to hear that a lot of those same people are going to be at PAX East, so that you guys will get a chance to see what I mean. Some of the games are just awesome, fun to play. But Yeah, I definitely would say one thing I will say about GDC is that I think a lot of people have this mindset that this is essentially a job fair. And it is that to a degree because there are a lot of students there that were looking to talk to different developers. But when you go there as press, you have a bit of a different perspective on this because, again, you're having a lot more chill conversations with the actual developers. And sometimes these developers, they don't really go to every show. The majority of people that I spoke to said they will not be at PAX East. They will be at E3. So which I thought was interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's just a lot more laid back conversations that you can have with some people. Because we know from experience when we go to E3, it's not quite as easy to talk to every person you want to talk to. You have to catch them because everybody is running to an appointment, so on and so forth. With this, it wasn't none of that. It was a little bit more relaxed. And if you had an appointment, it was good. And also the developers and the PR people were very appreciative of your time, so on and so forth as well. So just a couple of things that I took away from the event. But I definitely think it's an event that everybody should go to if they have an opportunity to, just to see what they think. But do not go to this event thinking that this is like E3. Obviously, if you go there with that mindset, you might be a little disappointed. But it's still good to go to this type of stuff because it's good for networking. Well, in particular for what we do, it's especially important for us to go to this stuff. So that's what I say.
Indeed.
Yes. So any other questions before we move on?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. That was awesome to hear, though.
Same, yeah. I definitely want to go at some point because I've never been to GDC, and this really confirms that I need to go at some point.
Oh yeah, you guys do need to go. Let me just say this before I end off this topic, though. Do not ever fly Frontier Airlines. That is absolutely one of the worst airlines. It's something with Spirit. I'll be surprised if somebody told me that they are not, that they don't have the same owner. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, a 5-hour flight, because you think it's a cheaper flight, you find out why that price is that way. A 5-hour flight, no TV, no in-flight entertainment, nothing. And on top of that, you pay for your luggage. So let me see. I paid about $75 to check 2 bags. That was going one way. So if you know math, that's about $150 total. And that's before you even count the ticket. So I would tell anybody, if you're flying to E3 anywhere in the world, do not use Frontier Airlines. Just pay more for Delta or something like that, and you're good to go.
It sounds like a lot of those airlines in America, and I'm not discriminating or hating you guys, but like a lot of those airlines find ways to add on additional charges. Because I remember one time when I went to E3, and then after E3, I was going to fly over to New York, I believe, to like spend some time with my family. And I remember like I already paid for the airfare for the ticket and everything, but then they charged me like an extra $70 or something just to put my bag on plane and stuff when they didn't tell me that charge was going to be there beforehand. So it's like, what the hell? And we're not really used to that sort of thing in the UK because it's like everything is usually like contained within, like when you buy your ticket, like you get everything pretty much, and there's no additional fees. But when I went to America, that's when I like first started getting those additional fees when I started flying around a lot, and it took me by surprise because like I usually plan every pound or every dollar that I spend. I like to plan ahead, so I really wasn't expecting to have to pay that. So that kind of really threw me off. But yeah, it seems like they structure things so they can add on a lot of those extra costs.
Oh yeah,
which is unfortunate sometimes.
Oh yeah. And I'm not. And on top of that, the pricing is not really the only issue. My plane got there late, so I actually had an appointment that I had to move because I got in there late because of the plane getting there late. It's a particular time they were supposed to arrive, and they arrived an hour later than scheduled. Plus, yesterday when I got off the airplane, it took me about an hour just to get my bags, because they had an issue getting it on the carousel. So, man,
Wow.
don't fly Frontier. Just that's the one takeaway you should get from this. Do not fly Frontier Airlines or Spirit Airlines. I know Mr. Lugo has had experiences with Spirit Airlines, so yeah, don't fly either of those airlines and you're good.
The hell with Spirit Airlines. They've treated me very bad in the past. Like, not only just going to E3, but also to PSX. Spirit's just not that great. Like, I like flying JetBlue, to be honest with you. You pay a little bit more, but I feel like you get less headaches, if not no headaches whatsoever for the entire trip. So I think that's usually better for me. That's what I'm doing now for PAX. I'm flying JetBlue.
Yes, very good decision. Very good decision. But just wanted to throw that in there. I don't want to go too much into travel because people came here to talk about games. So any final questions about GDC before we move on?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay, so the next topic for this week is everybody has obviously heard about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. The game is currently, I believe, one of the highest rated games on Metacritic right now. It's received a lot of glowing reviews from everywhere. So, Gary, I believe you wanted to ask what were our thoughts on that particular topic?
Yeah, just what are your thoughts, and if anyone has had the chance to play it. I'm not sure if any of you guys played it, but I mean, I'll go first quickly. I mean, I'm happy to see that this game has got such good scores and good praise, especially that it's one of the highest reviewed games of all time. Like, it's gotten the most amount of like praises and tens and stuff like that of any game ever. So that's pretty good to hear. I know a lot of people have been waiting for this game for a long time. A lot of people initially bought Wii U's because they believed this game was going to come out, and it did eventually come out on the Wii U, I guess. But it has a lot more significance now because it's the launch of a completely new system. And that's great that, now it's officially worth buying a Switch, I guess, just to play this, just to be able to play this game. So that's a good thing. I'm still not going to buy a Switch myself just for this game because I'm not going to, I can't justify buying a system just for one great game, and then like not play it again after that. So I still need to see a good lineup before I buy the Switch personally. But it's good to know that there's, a solid game that's there whenever you do, decide to buy the system. So I'm glad to hear, that it turned out great and that people are enjoying it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. There's a little bit of hyperbole that's been going around, and understandably so. Keep in mind, I think out of all of us, I think I'm the only one that's played Zelda to date right now, and that's only because at E3 I played the build that they had there. Now, currently now at this point, we have a totally different build of Zelda. That's the final release, so it's going to be radically different in some respects by the time compared to the one I played back then. So I can understand a lot of the praise. I can understand that a lot of people are saying this is the best Zelda game created to date, which could be saying a lot of things. A lot of people are drawing comparisons to like Dark Souls, as well as also to a lot of other open world games. And from one of the common things I've seen said about this Zelda game is that this one really kind of plays up the philosophy of the game design for a Zelda game in the series, meaning that there's a lot of open-ended exploration, a heavy emphasis on the exploration part, meaning that you're not getting punished when you go around exploring your surroundings and checking out different areas. There are some tough areas from what people have been saying, but when you go out someplace, especially some spot you haven't been to before, you definitely get rewarded for actually checking it out. Like, as opposed to like something like a Bloodborne or Dark Souls, when you roll into an area where you're technically not supposed to be and you get punished for it, it's like the complete opposite of that. So eventually we're going to know. Eventually we're going to check out the game. I know at some point I'm going to check out the game very, very soon. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be on the Switch. I might check it out on the Wii U. But I'll know firsthand exactly how that game has progressed up to this point. See if it's living up to the hype that a lot of people are saying, because getting a lot of the scores that it's getting from everywhere, critically, across the board from a lot of the bigger websites saying that it's a masterpiece of a game. People got to understand that when places are saying that it's a 10 out of 10 or 100 out of 100, it doesn't mean that it's a perfect game. It means that it's a masterpiece, that it could still have flaws. That's pretty much very similar to a lot of the other games that a lot of people are praising now. Horizon Zero Dawn has been getting a lot of glowing reviews. That's not a perfect game. Same thing with the Uncharted series. That's been like that. The Witcher The Witcher 3 is another one. Again, there's a lot of games that are in similar nature that have been gotten glowing reviews that aren't necessarily perfect. So we should look at it in the same way for Zelda Breath of the Wild. So again, could be a masterpiece, like what a lot of people are saying. Very cool to see.
Damn. Yeah, I agree with that. I think you hit the nail on the head there that I've been seeing a lot of like kind of spam and just people getting really mad at other people over the fact that everyone's giving Zelda a 10, and then when there's one complaint about it, they start freaking out at those people. Like, do you guys know the YouTuber JonTron at all? From Game, or he used to be on Game Grumps. Yeah.
Yep.
He has a pretty well-respected opinion on anything Nintendo, especially like the Zelda series and everything. And he was tweeting just small things about the game that he just didn't like that much. He's like, there hasn't been any iconic music so far, and the dungeons look like something out of a Half-Life 2 mod. And like, that's kind of funny in my opinion, but he's not saying that he doesn't enjoy the game. He even says he likes it. He just doesn't have that much motivation to play it right now, but just people are just getting so worked up over something like not being considered perfect or anything like that. Like you said, the masterpiece means there's still flaws. Like it doesn't mean it's a perfect game at all. It doesn't say perfect. If it said perfect, then yeah, you can get mad at that kind of stuff, but it's not. And it's nice when people realize that, you know?
Yeah, like a lot of people have it confused, like, you know, that 10 out of 10 doesn't mean this is the perfect game and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It just means it's a must-buy game. You know, that's simply all it means. I mean, you can still criticize the game and be critical of it and find things that you don't like, but I mean, that doesn't stop you from being able to appreciate something, like, you know, because I read a lot of books as well, like, and in every book I can spot, you know, a flaw, you know, like the descriptions might not be that good or whatever, like, but I still might really love the book, you know, like you can be critical about something that you really love, like, and people need to understand that it's not, you know, it's not either fantastic or crap, you know, like there can be in between.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's what I think about the subject. You know, I'm glad that Zelda is getting the good scores. I do have two questions in particular that I must ask though. Why does it feel like the reviews are overshadowing the actual reviews of the actual Switch? Because I haven't heard too many positive things about the Switch.
That's a very mixed bag, though. There's a couple different reasons.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say there's a couple different reasons for that. Number one, the Breath of the Wild is the premier game to play on the Switch right now, so that's what a lot of people's experience is going to be like. And some of the problems with the Switch overlap with it. You know, a lot of the people that experienced the left Joy-Con syncing issue were playing Breath of the Wild at times, and some people still acknowledge it. I think that maybe it's a little bit more of a wider spread problem that not everybody's going to experience at some point, and it seems like they've already addressed it. I mean, they've talked about, I think Nintendo's talked about, and they've mentioned a couple statements to like Kotaku and IGN about that particular problem, but it doesn't seem like it's as rampant. So at least, again, that'll probably be the one game where if things like that do pop up, that they'll talk about. The only other thing about the Switch that should be noted that has came out recently is that you can't transfer over save data between different Switches. That from the micro SD card, it actually locks that data to that specific Nintendo Switch, which I can understand to a point. I don't think that the majority of people are going to own multiple Switches, to be honest with you. So maybe that's not as big of a deal that people are making it out to be. Could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, to Rich's credit, I have heard a lot more about Zelda than the Switch itself from people, and I know a lot of people who did buy the Switch. Now, I don't know if that's just because I haven't been looking at the right time to see their opinions, or, you know, if people were just not really talking about the console itself. But yeah, I haven't really heard much about the console itself. But I did hear about some of the flaws though, but I haven't heard, like, you know, people who own it, whether they're satisfied or happy with it, etc.
And you know, I do have another question to piggyback off of that particular topic. Yes, we've heard about the positive reviews for the Zelda game that's on the Switch. What about the Wii U version? because there are differences between the Wii U and the Switch versions, but I don't like how Nintendo just decided we're not going to really tell you what the differences are. Besides the resolution, there's no other differences that I know about. Go ahead.
I know that for the most part, it runs pretty well. I don't remember if it runs at 30 or 60, probably 30. But there are just random frame drops when there's things like inclement weather and stuff like that, like lightning. There'll be frame drops, and that can get kind of annoying. They'll get down to the teens, but that doesn't really happen during important parts, which they made sure to note. And that's pretty much all I know aside from what you just said. But to me, that sounds pretty good. You know what I mean? Like, you can get a lot from that, in my opinion.
Ditto. Yeah, that's the exact same thing that pretty much that I've heard. Again, as someone that when I played it on the Wii U. I didn't play it on the Nintendo Switch. And from what I was told, the Switch runs at a real smooth frame rate. It looks gorgeous. Maybe a little bit more sheen compared to the Wii U version like that. And then the thing with the weather effects, that it just happens randomly. Because remember, there's a lot of stuff that's happening in that world. So, I mean, that could be understandable. Remember, the Switch is a little bit more powerful than the Nintendo Wii U. So that, you can take out that from what you will.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Gary.
I was just gonna, if you got something to say about Zelda, then you go first, because I want to bring it back to the Switch.
No, I just was gonna ask. So are you guys going to pick up your Switch in Zelda anytime soon?
My roommate's actually getting it within the next month, he keeps saying, because he wasn't bent on it. He was going to wait because he's the Nintendo guy in our house. Like, he's always been Nintendo guy. And he's very, very excited for it, but he wasn't willing to drop the money yet. He was just going to wait to until more games came out. But now all of these Zelda reviews and everything just have him like, damn, I need to get a Switch. And every day he's like, God, they're still sold out. They're still sold out. And he's just waiting until he can like kind of get one. It's pretty funny, but no, he's going to get it, and we're going to play through Zelda, and it's going to be awesome. I'm very excited. Like, all these reviews just have me hyped as hell for this game.
Funny enough that a lot of the reviews that have come out have mentioned, like, now is not a good time to dive into it at launch. Now is not the best time to dive into the console. And it's the same thing that I've been saying for a while here on the co-op, and I think we've all been in agreement with for the last like month or two, or if not longer, is that after Zelda, what else are you going to play? And from my understanding, from what I've seen in other reviews outside of Zelda, Super Bomberman R is not that great. 1-2 Switch is kind of meh, from what people have been saying.
Especially for $50.
For $50, yeah, which is a game that should have been packed in with the console.
Wait. How many 10s did that game get? Did it get a lot of 10 out of 10?
1-2 Switch? I don't think it got any 10s, son. But my point is that there's not a lot of games around the launch other than Zelda that people are really going to get excited about. And here's the thing. There's other games that are going to be coming out that are going to be on the platform. I know that in some of the press releases, Nintendo has talked about 1-2 Switch. They talked about Super Bomberman R. They talked about Skyrim here and there. That's coming much later on. Same thing with FIFA. They've talked about Ultra Street Fighter 2, which I really believe that's going to be a game that's going to be multi-platform at some point sooner than we think when that game finally comes out. There might be that little bit of window of like exclusivity on the Switch, but watch that come out on PS4 and Xbox One on the digital marketplace. Like it's almost guaranteed. But like there again, that's my point. Like, what other games can you really think of off the top of your head right now that if you got a Switch right now that you're going to be excited to play? Like, if you could really think about without looking at a press release and stuff, there's really not much people are going to really be thinking of, because the conversation now is Zelda and Mario at the end of the year. And 1-2 Switch right now. There's other games that are going to be in the platform. Don't get me wrong. We've seen that list that's been floating around. But as far as the games that you're going to buy this console for, it's very hard to justify that $300+. Because keep in mind, okay, it's not just $300 and it's not just the $60 that you're going to pay for a game. It's also, a lot of people are saying you got to get the Pro controller for this thing, which is another $70 to get around the syncing issue and to get around also the charging issue. Because the Switch Joy-Con controllers, you can only charge when it's in the dock. You have to buy a separate thing in order to charge them while you're actually playing them, or charge them separately from being docked mode.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, to add on to that, the only, like you said, you only have Zelda and Mario right now. The only thing that's kind of only for like dedicated fans really that's coming in between that is Splatoon 2, but that's probably not going to be the experience Nintendo is like hyping it up to be. So I totally get.
They're trying to make it into
waiting.
esports.
Yeah, and it'll have a small scene maybe, but I don't think that's. Do you think that's going to grow? Do you think that's going to go anywhere?
No,
Yeah.
no. And the thing is, and the reason why is because number one, the limited amount of people that are going to get a Switch
Yes.
right now. That's one thing. Okay. Number two, it's Splatoon 1.5, like what everybody says. That's not a true sequel. Or at least a huge step up from the original Splatoon.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people besides myself have said that. But again, when you're talking about what justifies the $300 plus purchase for this console, I don't think it's there right now.
Nope.
At the end of the year, it'll probably be there because there'll be a lot more games out. There'll be Mario out, which is good. That's going to be another game I think is going to get a 10 when that game comes out, which all signs right now, even though it's not complete and we've only seen so much of it, all signs, if it's handled in the same way Breath of the Wild was, that's going to be another critically acclaimed game when it drops. And I'm pretty sure when we go to E3, we're going to hear about other games that are going to be for next year for the Switch. Like, let's not forget that. Even though the Switch hasn't been out for very long, I'm pretty sure Nintendo is going to show other studios that have been working on other stuff. We still don't know what Retro's working on. I don't think they've actually really talked about that. Like, there's been rumors, but nothing concrete and confirmed. And I'm pretty sure Nintendo's going to show other IPs. Besides, like, keep in mind, we got Fire Emblem Warriors towards the end of the year. There's going to be other Nintendo first-party games that we're probably going to see that are going to be on the console. Then afterwards, towards 2018, I feel like then you're going to be in a better position to justify that purchase. But right now, unless you're a diehard Nintendo or unless you're a Zelda fan, there's almost no reason to get it. And even then, you could get Zelda on Wii U and save yourself a lot more money.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, it's just a lot of the games coming out are games we've already played, which again, it's fine. Like the Switch can have all these indie games right now, but it's not a reason to buy the thing right now. That's for after when you have it and you have your Mario and your Zelda and you've played through them and you're like, oh, I had never got around to playing this old indie game. Then you get it on the Switch or something. That's not what you get it for right now. Like, again, it's great that it has that support. Like that puts it more in line with Xbox and PS4 and gives a lot more people reason to buy it. But you need to wait.
Yeah, fully agree with that. Now, Gary, you were going to say something about the Switch.
Yeah, has anyone heard anything about like the online connectivity on the console? And what's this I'm hearing about the friend code thing?
Okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing about it. They don't have kind of like the friend code that's like similar to the Wii U, as far as from my understanding. Again, without looking at the actual OS of it, but the online capabilities. I mean, the eShop I think has just come out. I think it's with the launch that it already went online like this week at some point, and I haven't really heard a lot of problems about it. A lot of the other like stuff that people have been talking about is just with the hardware itself. I haven't really heard much about the online store, which I'm pretty sure is going to grow out over the next like month or so when other games start to become available online digitally and stuff. I know that a couple of the people that ended up reviewing Switch that they got games for, they ended up getting games digitally through the store, like Super Bomberman R, 1-2 Switch, and I think there was one other one, the fast racing Neo game that's supposed to be like F-Zero. They ended up downloading that as well, but I haven't really heard many bad things, or if any bad things whatsoever, about the eShop. That could change within the next couple of weeks. Keep in mind, like this needs to be out on the market for some time, and there needs to be people not only jumping on it that are the common folk that go to the stores to buy it, and actually we start hearing feedback from them.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard it. Well, yeah, this is good to hear about online. I got to be honest with you. I haven't heard nothing about the Switch. I tried to avoid the Switch because there's only one thing I'm looking forward to this month. That is a little game called Mass Effect Andromeda. So I purposely ignored the Zelda stuff. I'm glad that the Zelda is getting great reviews. Obviously, I'm not really surprised it's getting great reviews because I haven't seen one Zelda game get a bad score since the Zelda game's been coming out. But yeah, I'm glad it's getting good reviews. Maybe I'll check it out eventually. Maybe we all will check it out, at the end of the year when Mario is out, because to me, Mario is the true system seller, not really Zelda. And I'm not saying that because I do enjoy Zelda, but if I was Nintendo and I was launching a console, Mario should be the definitive game that I'm launching that console with. But that's just my opinion.
I think you're totally right on that. Like Zelda's there and it's great, but like when Mario comes out, that's just even when the general public's gonna jump on. You know what I mean? Just everyone's gonna be like, all right, Mario. Like, yep.
Absolutely.
That's when you're going to
100%.
see a lot of people dive into the Switch. That's what everybody that has it now is saying. They're saying exactly, if you're not into Zelda, you're going to get it from Mario, and that's when you're going to get the Switch. And then that's when you're going to see a lot more people talking about it, even then.
And those people are still probably going to get Zelda too after Mario. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Like
it's
obviously,
awesome.
I don't think
awesome.
you need to dive into Zelda at launch. Don't get me wrong. I don't think you need to dive into any game at launch unless you want to be part of the conversation then.
Yep.
But as far as like getting the most of value out of, the money you're putting into the console, I think it's fine. And even then, keep in mind, by then, even though it's notorious for Nintendo games not to do this, it may go down in price. That's a possibility. I mean, Nintendo games notoriously stay at full price for a very long time over other third parties and other first party games. That's just the way they are. They are very stubborn like that, and it works for them because people still buy it and such. But those will be, that and Mario will be the two games that people get on Switch during the holiday season.
I want to ask a quick question of you both. You can answer this too, Gary. Whether or not you think that this will happen, yes or no. Do you think that Nintendo will re-release Zelda with the season pass as a Game of the Year edition?
No, not anytime soon.
Okay.
Not anytime soon, because keep in mind, all this DLC content for Zelda that we know of right now is going to lead into the summer. I don't think they'll release something like that for this holiday season, maybe after into 2018, because they did that, even though there wasn't DLC, but they did their Game of the Year, or Nintendo Selects is what they're called, with the other Zelda games like Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess HD, and a few other games that are here and there on Wii U and regular Wii, as well as also I think on 3DS they did the same thing with some of the older launch titles on the 3DS, like Ocarina of Time 3D and Star Fox 64 3D. But for Breath of the Wild, I think I don't think it's a smart thing for them to do that right now. I mean, it'd be cool for us as consumers because then you get it all in one package, but I think they'll wait.
Man.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
I wasn't entirely sure on an answer, but honestly, what JJ's saying, I think that's pretty much what's going to happen. They're going to wait a bit. I wouldn't say it'd be dumb for them to do like when Mario comes around, but that's just too soon. Like, it would work out, but it's just too soon in my opinion. Yeah, they need to wait. If they end up doing it at all, they might just buck that trend. But I don't know. There are some things that are starting to bleed over to Nintendo. Nintendo isn't resistant to everything anymore. Like, that's not necessarily a bad thing, It's not a bad thing. But
I think they're archaic in a lot of other stuff, though. There's a lot of other things with the system
they're not
and that they've handled that they still have a lot to go on. And I think that comes from having that harsh and very stubborn Japanese businessman mindset. Because remember, Nintendo's an older company, and they've done what works for them for many, many years. They're the oldest gaming company in this industry, straight up. Like, that's just how they operate. And a lot of people, myself included, was hoping that now in the post Iwata era, when there's other people coming up on Nintendo, as far as like, as a company and such, that there would be a lot more things that are changing. Like the mobile market stuff and the stuff with Super Mario Run is a telling sign of that. But I don't think we're going to get as much as we want right now, if not anytime soon, with the company being radically different. We're going to see how it works out with Switch, though. If a lot of stuff doesn't work out for the better with Nintendo Switch, then you'll start seeing a lot more drastic changes. But right now, I think they're in a good spot.
Yeah, I think Nintendo is self-conscious and they know they need to evolve and take on some of the new trends. But I just think at the moment they're taking baby steps to get there, kind of thing. But I think they'll get there eventually. But hopefully they won't be surpassed by Sony and Microsoft.
Yeah, well, we'll see. But speaking of PlayStation, Gary, do you want to talk about the next topic, since this happened in your neck of the woods?
Oh yeah, so yeah, this is like a nice happy story actually, because like we don't we don't see a lot of, we focus on the competition between different companies, but rarely do we report when something positive happens between companies. So you all know that Horizon Zero Dawn and The Legend of Zelda came out this week, and both got, amazing review scores across the board and stuff like that. So first of all, Horizon came out and it was well praised and everything. And a lot of people drew comparisons to, between Horizon and The Witcher 3. And what's cool is that CD Projekt actually acknowledged this, and, they sent out a tweet and said, "We're loving Horizon Zero Dawn. Congrats to the Guerrilla team and High Five from Geralt. And they actually included artwork in that tweet that has Geralt and I forget how to pronounce her name now. The chick
Aloy.
Aloy, yeah, exactly. From Horizon Zero Dawn, and you know, it's like custom artwork kind of thing, and it has both characters doing like a high five, which is really cool to see. And then you know, of course, they replied and they had some artwork of their own, and you know, it had Aloy and Geralt from The Witcher 3 back to back with bow and arrows and stuff. And they said, after CD Projekt's lovely tweet, we just had to return the favor. Here's Geralt and Aloy engaged in a little friendly competition. So, you know, stuff like that is cool to see, especially like if you follow, you know, the gaming industry closely. Like you rarely see stuff like that between the different companies because, you know, they're all competitors. They're all, you know, focused on their own works and everything. So seeing them interact like that is really cool. And then also the bigger one that people were surprised about was Sony actually congratulated Nintendo.
Yep, that was huge.
Yeah, they had a tweet that says, wow, congratulations to Nintendo UK. Whatever adventure you go on this weekend, what an amazing time for gaming. Now that was, you know, that really stands out right there because we know those two companies have been in close competition for years. So just to see something like that is incredible. So yeah, first of all, I wanted to ask what you guys thought of that.
Honestly, I think both things are really cool. The stuff with Geralt and Aloy is cute. Those are things that are like really cute, and it's just fun to see that because this just shows you that not everybody in the industry is as harsh or as like, you know, stuck up at, you know, in what they do. Not only in their successes and their failures, but also with amongst their peers and such. That same type of personality and fun playfulness that we see when we go to some of these events like E3, like PSX, like Comic-Con, like PAX that we're going to now. That's something that's expressed now a little bit more openly on social media. You know, little things like that because each company did a drawing, and I think that's cool because both of them got into it. And it's like they didn't really have to do that for any publicity. They didn't have to do that to get any sort of perception. They just did it just because it was fun, because it was a nice thing. You were congratulating one of your peers, and you were just having a little goof with it. And I think that's cool. The reason why the Nintendo and Sony one is as good, and this really started with Microsoft, I think, really congratulating, I think, way back when to Sony when the PlayStation 4 came out at one point. I think I don't know if it was ever the same way on the opposite side, because with Shuhei Yoshida when the Xbox One came out, I could be wrong on that one. I think it really started with Microsoft, but why it's so important with Nintendo and Sony is not because they've been in competition, but because there's been bad blood for many, many years. And people know that because that goes back all the way to when the PlayStation was first coming out, you know, before then, back when they were going to announce the partnership with Sony back in the day. And it involved Gunpei Yokoi and all these, not Gunpei Yokoi, Ken Kutaragi and all these other people that were involved with the original PlayStation. But that's cool because it shows you that times are changing. You know, this industry is getting a little bit more mature. You know, we're all starting to age, and things are starting to change from the people that were up at the top of some of these companies. Because I'm pretty sure back in the mid '90s, when all these console companies were still kind of fresh and they were still involved with some of their earlier retro consoles, you would never hear about stuff like this. Not because there was no social media, but because not only people didn't talk about it, but they were always so focused on the animosity between most of the big companies that were around. And that's really cool. That's really cool to see now that you could see, like we've even seen it at E3 the last few years. We saw Reggie Fils-Aimé walking around the Xbox booth or walking around the PlayStation booth. I saw him go play Cuphead one year at E3, and I saw I think I saw Miyamoto or somebody else walking around the PlayStation booth. You know, just checking out some of the games for the security detail.
I physically saw Miyamoto walking around the Xbox area last year.
Yeah, you know, there's that type of stuff now we get to see, not just in our circles when we're out there. Now we could see it a little bit more visually expressed through social media, because I think that's a good thing, that they could show their audience that, like, listen, you know, we pay attention to all these different people or different companies that are around us. And I think that's good, because that could also maybe open up the doors for certain things that we never thought that were possible years ago within our industry, whether it's collaborations, whether it's stuff implemented into certain consoles or to certain companies and the way that they make their games. That's very cool and very awesome to have that potential to see happen.
Yeah, what do you think, Max?
Yeah, I generally agree. I think you guys covered most of what there is to be said about it. It's just genuinely a cool thing to see, and the fact that we are moving into this, that this is sort of becoming the norm. That's a great change. It's a great trend to be starting in this kind of industry, because yeah, everyone's starting to congratulate everyone on everything, it seems like, and it's just cool to see the effort put into it, especially with like the CD Projekt Red thing where they just did the drawings like that. Like interacting with each other's creations and stuff is really cool. And it sets a good precedent for everyone too, like just gamers.
Yeah, CD Projekt in particular, they're a great company. Like, you know, even when we go to like their appointments at E3 and stuff, they're really cool. Like they hand out beers for everybody, and you know, they're very engaged, and they'll interact with everyone. Like they're very friendly people. So I love that company overall. So it's cool to see that drawing.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick comment. Microsoft also congratulated Nintendo as well. It wasn't just Sony that did that. But I wanted to add this. I'm glad to see that the developers, the companies, they are showing respect to each other. And I wish that this would bleed into the actual fans, because that is that you know, when the actual companies have enough class and respect to acknowledge the other, that means something. But that is something that is needed for the fans as well. You know, it's just something as simple as if you don't like the other console, that's fine. Don't hate on it. Just don't even need to talk about it at that point. But when they're doing this, I think that this is a great sign of what is needed in the industry throughout. Everybody should be supportive. But obviously, that's a tall order for in today's standards, because there's a lot of people that are diehard fans of one console and they don't like the other, so they talk bad about it, which is unfortunate. But anyone who is a true gamer, you're happy to see this stuff, because this is what gaming is supposed to be about. You like a lot of different things. It doesn't matter what platform it's on. You just like something, you have to acknowledge it. So I'm glad all this stuff happened this week, because I think it needed to happen.
So, Rich, do you think that you know, after the reveal of the Xbox Scorpio, are we going to see Sean Layden tweet Phil Spencer and say congrats on an epic reveal for that beast machine?
No, I think that's gonna be like, no, they're gonna be real quiet over there.
I had to think for a second when you said Sean Layden, and I laughed because I thought you were saying Sean Murray.
Maybe
I'd be like, what the hell would Sean Murray have to say to Microsoft? Nothing.
Yo, for the record, I think we should acknowledge, okay, and I know this is a little off topic, but we should acknowledge that Sean Murray and team got an award recently for No Man's Sky, which we didn't add into our little itinerary. But I heard about this, and I find that funny. But I leave it there.
Yeah, because there was a video online that I know some people went in on that, so I thought that was interesting that they received an award. Maybe it was the award for promising and not delivering on what you promised.
Believe it or not, it was for the procedurally generated world. It was the format that they had.
Oh wow!
And that's it, and that caused a lot of feelings for a lot of people. So.
Yeah, there's some rumors that they apparently stole that technology, and there's like a lawsuit for it.
There's a lawsuit.
I heard about
which is interesting too. So it's like, I don't know if that award is like well deserved.
Well, hey, Suicide Squad also got an Oscar, so there you go.
What a world we live in, right? Like, But to your point, Gary, I think I would see something like that coming from like a Shuhei Yoshida. I don't know about Sean Layden, maybe, because Sean's a classy dude. Sean's sophisticated. He's cool. But Shuhei is pretty cool too.
Yeah, Rich, we also have a question from our friend Reggie. I'm not sure what he's referring to, but he's asking. Yeah, Weapon X, shouts to him. He's asking, did you see the interview that Phil Spencer did with IGN?
Well, Reggie, if you let us get to the final topic, I absolutely was planning to talk about that, because I saw that a lot of people maybe didn't see that before they started saying a lot of different stuff on a lot of different podcasts. I did see that, and I do have something to say about this. So we are going to talk about it. Don't worry. But before we do that, does anybody else have anything to say about the news we just talked about with Sony?
No, I would
No,
just
we're
say
good.
that
Yeah.
I just want to say I'd love to see a lot more of this kind of interacting between companies, because that's something that makes platforms like Twitter really fun to see, like just to see
Yeah.
how companies interact and stuff. So
Oh yeah,
I always love that.
Me too.
yeah. Again, I think you showing unity within the community and support, that's important. And I wish that everybody would do that. But
And yeah, when your timeline is so full of like fanboyish comments and stuff like all day, every day. Like me, I'm a troll. I like, I sometimes I troll, but it's just for fun. But there's people who legitimately like, it's like they make it their daily goal to just like, push their agenda and bash the other platform or whatever
Yeah,
that
oh
they
yeah.
don't like and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And when your timeline is plagued with all that stuff, stuff like this really stands out and it sends a positive vibe.
Absolutely.
So that's good.
Absolutely. So glad to see that. Hope to see more of it. Well, we'll see what happens. But I guess now we need to get to the final topic of today's show. And as Gary said, in the true tradition of trolling, he presented this particular title of Microsoft introducing the Xbox Game Pass this week, and asking the question of what are our thoughts on the service. So allow me to just say this first before we get into that. I did see the interview that Phil Spencer had with IGN. And after I saw that interview, I sent out a tweet and I said, this is an interview that anyone that has, if you have any doubt in Phil Spencer, you need to see that interview immediately. Because he went into detail about a lot of things. Not only did he talk about the Xbox Pass, he also talked about Scorpio, and offered some insight as to how he is looking about things. Like when he made the comment, I know we joked about it before, when he made the comment when Scalebound got canceled and said that this is good for gamers, he addressed that as well, saying that, his goal is to make the first party lineup actually relevant and trying to restructure and fix that first party lineup. This is why you're not seeing a lot of Xbox games now, or why you're seeing scarcity with that. He's trying to fix that. Well, obviously, not really quite clear a lot of times when he had said stuff in the past. And even when they announced this Xbox Game Pass thing, there were some people that thought, well, what's going to happen with Games with Gold? That was later addressed, and they said that these are two different services. Games with Gold is not going to be affected at all. It's going to be the same way it's always been. But really, the Xbox Game Pass is just giving people an option if they want to use the service. It's not a mandatory service or anything like that. So I did want to say that I thought the interview as a whole was very informal, very revealing. They did mention that they're not quite sure yet if they're going to have a Scorpio reveal ahead of E3, because he did say he thinks talking about Scorpio at E3, that's way too much. They want to focus on just games, which I thought was very interesting. But again, they don't have any concrete information on if they are going to have a separate reveal for Scorpio. I mean, it all depends. But overall, I just think, and anyone who has been harsh on Phil, harsh on Xbox, they owe it to themselves to see that interview, because that will let you know a little bit more about what they're doing there at Microsoft, what they're trying to do with Xbox. And I thought it was a great interview overall. Now, the question about the Xbox Game Pass in particular, what are you guys' thoughts on the service? Gary, how about you go first?
Yeah, I think it's great. It's essentially like the Netflix for Xbox, for gaming and stuff. And it's cool that they're gonna sort of rotate some of the games, kind of like what Netflix does. So it's not gonna completely change like every month, but they're gonna rotate some things in and out, kind of thing. And that seems cool because then it keeps the service fresh. Like you'll get new things in there, every month and stuff. But then you might also miss out on some things that you didn't get to yet as well. But it's a service that is giving you access to 100 games, and and I feel like this is a great service for parents or adults who are buying a system for their child or something of that nature, because they can just pay for this service, which is, $10 a month, and, their child then has access to all those games. It's cost effective. They might be older games, they might not be, all new games or anything like that, but it's still games that your child can play, and you don't have to physically go out and buy like $60 games and stuff like that to keep him entertained. So I think it's really good for that sort of purpose. And yeah, I think it's definitely a great idea. Yeah, I'll get to the rest of my thoughts later, but yeah, definitely a good service. It's a positive from me. Thumbs up.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. And also to add on, Microsoft did a total bro move by allowing you to download the games. They're not like being streamed or anything like that. So people with bad internet can just download one of the games they want overnight and just be able to play it whenever, which is really, really awesome in my opinion. Like that's a huge, huge plus.
Yeah, ditto on that as well. I don't think that Sony needs to come up with a brand new service. I think that in that case, you go back to the drawing board with PS Now. I think that because PS Now, the philosophy behind it is very similar to this. It's just that obviously the price model is not the same, as well as also I'm pretty sure the library is obviously not going to be the same. But adopting that Netflix style model for providing content, via Xbox Live and such, or just again games that you would find on the Xbox platform, I think is great. And eventually you're going to start seeing all the console manufacturers, if not a bunch of the major publishers, do this. Remember, we have EA Access right now. We have what is it? There's one more I'm thinking of right now at the current moment. I can't remember. Technically Steam. You could say kind of like the same thing, even though you're paying for individual games and stuff. But as far as like paying a monthly fee and then just playing a variety of different games like that, that's a very Netflix style model. And I could definitely foresee all the big console manufacturers doing something similar at some point. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I think like there's going to be some time to see if Xbox Games Pass actually works, for like a period of maybe like for the rest of this year. I could totally see that. And then maybe you start seeing Sony and Nintendo dive into that, because PlayStation, like I said, PlayStation Now has like the same type of DNA for it, and it could work in a similar fashion. As far as Nintendo right now, they're still getting caught up with the same idea like what they got with PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live Gold by offering those titles. I don't think you're going to get that from Nintendo anytime soon, especially now after the Switch launch. And also them getting their footing with their online service, especially the paid online service. But, we'll see what happens over the next like couple of months leading into the final quarter of this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have a couple quick comments to make, and then I know Gary, I believe he was about to ask something else. So when you asked the question about does it kill PlayStation Now? No, it does not. Now, obviously, it's a better service than PlayStation Now because of what Max just says. The fact that you could download the game and play it as opposed to streaming it, I think that's a pretty good deal right there. But no, the people who have PlayStation Now, they will continue to use PlayStation Now, and they will continue to be satisfied with their service. If Sony was to announce anything at E3 about PlayStation Now, I would think they may consider what we talked about before, which is possibly finding a way to incorporate it into PlayStation Plus. And I'm not saying that maybe you'll get one game every single month where you can use the service and it'll be a free game, something like that. I don't think it's going to be the full all of the service that they have offered on PlayStation Now. It's going to be some type of catch there. But I could definitely see Sony announcing that as another incentive as to why you need PlayStation Plus. And I think that'll be a very smart move if they did that. As for, I heard JJ mentioned, EA Access. One thing I did want to add, this is maybe a little bit off topic. We all know that Peter Moore he has left EA. I know he has had ties to Xbox since he has been with Xbox. I will tell you right now, I will not be surprised if EA Access eventually comes to PlayStation because of that. That's something I wanted to throw in there. But yeah, as for the service itself, yeah, it's not going to kill PlayStation Now. It's a better option for those, obviously with Xbox, if you want to look at it. But people who still have PlayStation Now, they'll still use PlayStation Now. So it's not really going to impact them. that's just another option for those that, you know, who have an Xbox and they want to play games on their system.
I'm gonna have to interject there because
Oh,
I really feel like this is going to kill PlayStation Now if Sony keeps it the exact same way that it is now.
yeah.
Now, I think this is like the Xbox Game Pass is like 100% a missed opportunity from Sony. Like they should have done this a long time ago. Like
when they got Gaikai, they
Yeah.
should have did that when they got Gaikai back then.
and also when Microsoft dropped that bomb and said we're putting backwards compatibility on the system, they should have did it shortly after that, I think. But I don't know what they've been doing since then, but like the fact that they didn't already do this with PlayStation Now, like I think that's a complete missed opportunity from them, because this is what they should have did, with PlayStation Now. And now that Microsoft has done it, it's kind of forcing Sony's hand, and I feel like they have to respond and they have to do something now.
Well, hold on. You think they have to respond?
I don't think they have to respond. I mean, here's the thing. No, I was going to say, here's the thing. Like, as far as like the two consoles, like Xbox One and PlayStation 4, right now, PlayStation 4 is in a phenomenal position. And Xbox is still doing good, but it's nowhere near in the same type of position that PlayStation 4 is at right now, as far as like sales, as far as like mind share, and a whole bunch of other factors. As far as this is concerned for down the line, though, I think that maybe you'll start to see maybe Sony adopt some of this stuff later, like after Scorpio, after, maybe into next year or something like that. Maybe they come into E3 in June and they start talking about this stuff and say like it's available at the end of the year at some point.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like they have to come into E3 and say, look, PlayStation Now has changed. We're doing this now. Like,
I think that's coming. I don't think they have to do it though. That's the thing. I don't think they have to do it, even though a lot of people aren't diving into PlayStation Now like that. That's been lingering around and limping for quite some time. But I really believe, though, I'm with you as far as like it's going to come eventually. I don't think it's going to be immediate though.
Yeah, I kind of like. I mean, I'm not talking about, bear in mind, I'm not talking about PlayStation as a whole. I'm not saying that this threatens the sales of the PS4 or anything like that. I'm just saying in terms of PS Now itself, if they want to continue that, and if they like, I'm sure they only have like 5 people subscribing right now or something like that. But if they really want that service to be a big deal, they have to change it now that Microsoft has done this. Because keep in mind, like, the Xbox has backwards compatibility. They also have, games with gold, and now they have this, Games Pass. That's a lot of value there. And what does Sony have? Sony actually, they rejected the EA Access service. Remember now, they rejected it. They said no to the service. They could have had it. I'm sure they'll change their mind now.
I didn't know about this, so that's good. That's good.
Well, here's the thing: they did it
said,
specifically because of PlayStation Plus. That's why they did it a while back then. Because you could argue that as far as like the value you get from EA Access, it's not the same thing that they had with PlayStation Plus they were offering.
Yeah.
It was because of both. I think it was because of PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now, because they knew that they was going to introduce PlayStation Now. So I think that's also why they said no to EA Access. But it was offered to them, and they said no. So I definitely feel like now that might change. I think maybe like Rich said, we might actually see EA Access on PlayStation Now. I think that's definitely a possibility, because Sony needs to respond to this somehow.
That's crazy. They probably will respond, but like JJ said, PlayStation is in an excellent position. We've had the last 3 months nonstop games. We have Nier coming out on Tuesday, so I think Sony, in terms of the game releases now, I mean, that's all people are talking about. Horizon Zero Dawn has got excellent reviews. Gravity Rush 2 dropped in January with Yakuza 0, so I think they're fine now. This is not really something they're going to be worried about. Maybe they are worried about it to some extent, but it's not going to change too much. But I mean, we'll see. They are going to respond later, like you said, maybe. So we'll see.
Now, I do also. Oh, go ahead. I think Max was going to say something.
Yeah. Well, I want to go when you guys are done, because mine's a branch off into a topic. So if you still have more to say on this, go ahead.
Yeah. Did you want to ask the question that M. Collins submitted now, or? later?
Well, after, because I just want to say one more thing. It's
Okay.
kind of a branch as well, but it's going back to Microsoft now. They're introducing the Game Pass. I'm also wondering if the games with Gold service is going to suffer as a side effect of the Games Pass. Like, are the games going to be as good as they have been on games with Gold?
Because I think it's whatever right now.
Yeah.
Games with Gold I never felt was as good as like some of the stuff that they offer on PS Plus. The majority of the time. I don't think it's going to be really affected by the Games Pass though.
Yeah.
Maybe you start seeing different types of games, like maybe a couple more bolder choices with Games with Gold, or vice versa like that. But I don't think it's really going to be affected that bad.
Yeah, I just was going to add that they've already released a statement about that and said that service is not really going to be impacted by this one. I mean, it's operating as two different products, so I'm not sure if it's going to be impacted. I would say, honestly, in my opinion, it still is a good thing because it's giving people options. If you don't like the games with Gold, games that you get for free, well, then you can just take advantage of the service and you'll have more options that way. But it's giving people an option, either way for it. So I think it's a good direction that they're going with that. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think I like games with Gold for the most part, and like they were saying, I don't think it's going to affect it too much. The games with Gold has always been kind of like random third-party games, and they're starting to even have indie games launch on it a lot of the times. So it's usually those kinds of games are things that you may not have heard of otherwise. Sometimes they have big titles in there. Like we're getting Evolve and Borderlands 2 this month, which is pretty cool. But a lot of them are things that just no one's really spending money on anymore, and they kind of have a different vibe than what I think that the Game Pass is going for. The Games Pass to me seems to be a lot of more high profile games from what it looks like. Like I know they're launching with Halo 5 and not Battlefield. Is it? I don't remember, some other high profile game. And that's just what it seems to be in my eyes.
Absolutely. So wait, Gary, you was continuing, or maybe Max. Which one of you was supposed to branch off into the other topic?
Oh, I was going to branch off.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I wonder if the reason, because according to that interview with IGN that Phil Spencer was having, obviously he's aware of the situation our exclusives are in right now with Xbox. Like, yeah, we knew that, but it sounds like he's doing a lot of work behind the scenes that just is getting pretty tough to get approved. Like, I think he does want to do these new things, and I think it's the people above him that aren't really allowing him to do a lot of the things he wants to do. And since he's the spokesperson, everyone is kind of blaming him. Like, a lot of the general public's just kind of blaming him and saying like, oh, it's his fault because he's the one speaking out, so they're going to blame him, even though I'm sure he's doing what he can. And I'm sure it's just very, very stressful for him. And I wonder if he was able to get that Game Pass out, or like the reason that it's coming now is because he knows they're not going to have a whole lot when the Scorpio comes out, and he's fighting for that, but he can't right now. And the Games Pass is kind of a way to soften the blow to allow us to have things right now, because like you said, he's eventually going to get somewhere with what he's fighting for. Like, we are going to have more exclusives, I think, eventually, but it probably won't be this year, and it probably won't be until later next year when any of that starts. But I think that the Games Pass is probably one of the best ways he could think of that allowed us, or that's going to soften that kind of blow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yeah, I kind of agree with that, but also keep in mind, this is also got to be based off a lot of stuff that we just don't know, that the general public doesn't know, that he hasn't said in interviews and stuff. And that's par for the course. Gaming fans are more than likely always going to blame someone that's put in front of them as the spokesperson, that they represent the brand. That's just how it is. When something goes wrong at Sony, everybody blames Shuhei Yoshida. They don't go to Sean Layden. They don't go to any of those other people. They're going to go to Shuhei because that's who they know. You can say the same thing about Nintendo, where everybody goes to Reggie and complains to Reggie. That's just the way it is. Same thing with Miyamoto. But point is, there's probably a lot more things that are going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, for better or for worse. And you could be right in that regard, but there's no way to really know it for certain until maybe E3 when they finally open up about stuff, when we finally do see the Scorpio and we get a good idea of where we're going to be at towards the holiday season, if not afterwards and such. Maybe the reason why we haven't heard things about Crackdown 3 and such is because maybe that's going to be one of the first big games for the Scorpio that they're going to really push like that on top of this Game Pass, on top of whatever else. Again, we won't know until then. So it's a little bit unfair to them for a lot of people to get so upset. And that I kind of blame a little bit of ignorance on a lot of the people on the outside looking in and such. But again, patience is going to go a long way, and we'll know eventually once we go to E3.
I actually think there's a lot of validity in what Max said there, because because I read a lot of the technology section of Reddit, and I read a lot of like tech sites and magazines and stuff, and just what I hear about Microsoft, as a company. I do believe that, I don't think like the big execs, the corporate execs in the company, I don't think they see the Xbox brand as important as, the rest of stuff that's going on at Microsoft. So I do think Phil Spencer does have to put up a fight for a lot of the things that happens in the Xbox division. So I definitely could see that. I think there's a lot of validity to that. And that's definitely a tough spot for him to be in, because, he has to kind of liaise with the bosses, and, he has to also please the fans. And, like you said, JJ, like a lot of criticism and stuff goes on these people who represent the brand, and that's definitely a tough spot to be in there. But yeah, I definitely feel like that's truthful. That could be the case.
You can say the same thing about like someone like Gio Corsi, who deals with a lot of the third-party content for PlayStation. That could be said about just about anybody that's a public figure that's put in front on that stage whenever they have a conference at E3, at GDC, at PAX, any one of these events, Comic-Con, whatever. Like the person that they put out there, that's the person that everybody's going to identify with that brand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to make a quick comment that was an excellent topic to bring up, Max. I just wanted to add something to that. We all know that Phil is under pressure. I mean, I recall that he said in the past he wasn't a fan of the third-party deals, and then within a short amount of time, they signed Tomb Raider as a timed holiday exclusive on Xbox One. And then he had to change his stance and say, well, we don't have a title like that, so it is what it is. Even though he wasn't the one that greenlit that whole thing in the first place, I'm sure he still got the blame for that. But what I will say of that interview is that I think that is a very good point about this Game Pass making up for the fact, because he did mention in the interview, this is going to be a very different type of year for them, because there's no Halo launching on the console. There's no Gears of War. Obviously there may be a Forza. He also hinted that there may or may not be a major title that they are going to launch on that system. He was very, very vague specifically about that information, even though, and this was after they already mentioned Sea of Thieves and all this other stuff. So, I mean, it is left to leave, the whole thought of what's going to happen. But what you say about him having issues with, the people above him, I mean, the simple fact that he doesn't yet know if they're going to have a event for Scorpio. I mean, we're only a few months away from E3. At this point, they need to know this information, because he did say that he only wants to talk about games at E3. So if they don't talk about it before that, well, now you're going to be in a situation where it's the hardware or the other. You're not going to really be talking about the games like you want to talk about the games, unless you just purposely, don't want to say much about the hardware. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It is cause for concern. I know he definitely has to fight for a lot of things. I'm hopeful that as things move forward, though, he is fighting for things that matter. I don't care about a Voodoo Vince remaster, to be quite honest. I want to see new IPs Microsoft making. I wasn't happy to see Scalebound get canceled, but I'm hoping that, where's Sunset Overdrive 2 at? You have the developers talking about they'll take their game elsewhere. I mean, they need to be concerned about all of this stuff. And he also mentioned in that interview that, obviously everybody knows they don't own any part of, Remedy. In terms of the Alan Wake stuff, all of that stuff is just sitting there. So I wouldn't be surprised, if they don't act that is another studio that may, end up working with Sony. You may see Alan Wake 2 on PlayStation. I mean, all of this stuff could happen. But yeah, we'll have to see. But I think you opened up a good point there that he definitely is having some struggles. Hopefully he is able to fight through some of this stuff. But ultimately, I will find out what's going on with Scorpio soon because, hey, it's only a couple of months E3, but we'll see what they do until then.
Yeah, and I do going back to Max's question, I do genuinely think that this could possibly be like a short-term solution to the no games for Scorpio problem. Like I could definitely see that being the case, because if they're still considering having a Scorpio reveal event now, like, and we're so close to E3, I mean, like I'm shocked that we're already in March, to be honest with you, and like E3 is what, like 3-4 months away now. So they this is stuff that they should have already scheduled. Like they already should have this plan set in place. So it's worrying that they're still actually considering that now. So maybe they don't have a lot, on the table, and maybe this Games Pass is a good way to kind of offset that.
Yeah, I agree. And later on, it'll also just be a nice thing to have. Like if and when, most likely when, they do start getting their exclusives out and everything like that, we'll still have the Games Pass, you know what I mean? And like some of those may be thrown on there later on, I wonder if they're going to do anything where they like do a soft launch with people like they do with EA Access and Mass Effect. They're getting like a soft launch 5 days ahead of time. I wonder if they're going to do anything like that with the Game Pass. Like Games Pass users get like a week ahead of time for like Crackdown 3 or something like that. You know what I mean? They'll still have to buy it, but they'll be able to play it a week early and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Because they control it completely because it's first party. So I don't know.
Keep in mind, they might do that with demos. I totally could see that with demos. I know PlayStation Plus does that. EA Access does that.
Yeah.
So it's par for the course.
Yeah.
Hey, let me just make a quick comment because I saw Reggie asked, oh yeah, don't forget what he said about the premium price. I say, yeah, that was a very interesting interview because that premium price, they did mention that they think that the Slim, that will continue to be one of their better selling products. So that makes me think now this Scorpio is going to be a lot more than people think it's going to be. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, we don't know for sure until we actually see the price. But I did find it interesting how he also mentioned that in particular. But we'll see. Gary, I believe you had one final question from M. Collins that we need to answer.
Yep. So shouts to Patreon supporter M. Collins. He asked an additional question here. We've kind of, touched on it a little bit already, but he asked the question: will Sony come out with a new plan by E3 with their PS Now service because of Xbox Pass? So, yeah.
I don't think so, honestly. I really don't think so. Unless Sean Layden walks up on there and he talks about how they're revamping PlayStation Now. I mean, that's pretty much the best scenario that could possibly happen. But I don't think they even really need to do that at this moment, to be honest with you, despite everything we've said at this point. But I feel like that's still, within the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the E3 conference starts and the first thing Sony talks about, yes, we're fixing PlayStation Now, that lets you know that they're very concerned about what Microsoft is doing with the Game Pass thing. I don't believe they're going to do that. I think again, if they want to address it later, they can. I don't really think it's a big deal for Sony because, again, Sony has been doing a great job with their releases so far this year. They have a lot of titles that people are looking forward to that still aren't that are on their way also. And they are number one. They're leading in everything. So I don't really think they have anything to worry about in terms of, Game Pass. They have titles out, so it's not a big deal, I would say. But if they want to address it later, they can. But I don't think it's more important. I think it's more important that we get release dates for God of War, Spider-Man, and we know more about Days Gone and Last of Us 2 than PlayStation Now. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, so let me be very clear with my answer. Like, you know, I'm not saying that this whole thing affects PlayStation as a whole. Like, they're still going to be selling, you know, a fuck ton of consoles. You know, they're still going to be selling millions. This doesn't affect the sales at all. And, you know, they have a quality game like Horizon out right now, and I'm sure there's a lot more to come. We have Spider-Man to come, God of War, Last of Us 2. You know, we got all these, you know, amazing games coming still. So it's not going to affect the entire PlayStation brand. But here's what I'm saying. If they want PlayStation Now to be a viable option, if they want gamers to consider subscribing to PlayStation Now and using the service, they need to address this, I think. And I definitely feel like now is a good opportunity for E3 for them to come out and say, we've revamped the PlayStation Now service and this is what it is now, you know. I don't know if they're going to make it not be a streaming thing. And they'll probably stick with the streaming thing, to be honest with you, because that is what, you know, Gaikai and everything was all about. But they just need to make it a more viable option. Like, they need to say, look, if you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber, you can get this for an extra $5 to $10 per month, you know, and you have access to all these games. We're going to rotate the games. You know, like, you know, they just need to address it. I feel like if they want PlayStation Now to be an option, they have to, I think. And it's not even about pride. They shouldn't just be doing this because Xbox is doing it. They should be doing it because they want to give their gamers, their customers, value, because all these other game services out there are giving like gamers value. Like, so they have choice now. Like, people could start playing the Xboxes more because they have Game Pass. You know, so they need to give that value to their customers if they want their customers to remain with them. So it's not even about pride. This is just something they should do, I think.
I'd agree with that. I think that, yeah, they'll be pretty fine if they don't do it. But yeah, it's something that will give their consumers value and just like appreciate the PlayStation brand a bit more and their PlayStation experience and everything like that. And it's just, yeah, it's not necessary, but it's a really cool idea, in my opinion. Like, it's a trend that I think should keep going. Like, I like this kind of stuff. Like, it's funny to think that EA kind of started this trend. You know what I mean? Like, EA Access is $5 a month. Like, that's pretty cheap, even in addition to your monthly subscription for what you're getting with it. Like, you're getting a bunch of full games that stay there. You're getting a bunch of early access to titles. You're getting a bunch of discounts on everything. It's cool. It's like a nice, it'd be awesome if Sony embraced that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I did think about asking a question very briefly, or, you know, just a thought, as you know, we were talking about, you know, whether or not Sony, what they're going to be talking about in the future in terms of game releases. I wanted to ask you guys a hypothetical question. I know what my answer is. It's a rather controversial answer, but let's say that Sony, that all of these big titles we're looking forward to, Spider-Man, the God of War, let's say these titles are just pushed to 2018. And let's say that the second half of this year is just, there's not really that many games. Would you still say that Sony did an excellent job with their first party lineup this year, if you count from now, well, from the beginning of the year until now, and knowing that nothing else is coming out for the rest of the year? I mean, we already know there's going to be more games, but I'm just saying, hypothetically, if there was no other games coming out this year, no more exclusives on PlayStation 4, would you say they did a great job so far this year?
I would still say they did a great job, because I'm also going to factor in third-party exclusives. Now, they have a lot of quality third-party exclusive. Persona's coming out next month. We've had Neo, and, you know, there's a lot of other, you know, third-party exclusives, and they've had Horizon, which is their first-party exclusive, and it's amazing. So yeah, they've already had a good year. Like, and you know, just from the stuff that we know is coming, they're already having a good year in terms
I agree.
of lineup.
I agree 100%. Yeah,
I agree with that too. I think that it would suck at the end of the year. It'd just be like, oh damn, I wish that there were more coming, but like, you couldn't really fault them for it at that point. You'd just be like, yeah, they had an awesome year, you know what I mean? It was just all, and like, you could spread all those games out and make them last the year. Like, that's how many like are out right now, you know what I mean? So that's pretty cool. It's an interesting situation, and the thing is, yeah, that's like, they will probably have a lot more this year, so it's just awesome to see.
Yeah, and is Near Automata also exclusive or?
No, I think it's multi-platform.
It's on
Oh
PC.
no! It's coming
It's on
to PC
as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
PC
Okay.
and PlayStation 4 only.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, well, you could throw that in there too because it's not going to be on Xbox. So on a console level, you know, that's something else they have.
Absolutely.
And they have the Kingdom Hearts games that are coming out, the remixes.
Yep.
They've got
Well, yeah,
Zodiac
true.
Age. So yeah, that I think they're gonna have a good year for games.
Well, that's it. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I'm good.
Same.
All right, cool. Well, we thank you all for checking out this week's show. Feel free to give your shout outs, guys. How about you go first, Max? Any final words or shout outs?
Yeah, as always, good show, guys. Thanks everyone in the chat for participating. It's always awesome to have you guys in there. And I will see you guys next week. Or I won't see you guys next week. We'll be at PAX, but I will see you guys next show.
Absolutely. How about you, Mr. Lugo?
Yeah, just thank you to everybody that's hanging out in chat. Appreciate the comments and all the questions that you guys have been posting there. We really appreciate it after every single show, you know, seeing you guys in there and just interacting with us while we're talking about the different topics. Shout out to the Patreon subscribers. Thank you. We appreciate it. It means a lot that you guys are supporting us, allowing us to keep bringing you guys great content. Again, we got some more stuff planned down the line. We all are going to be, with the exception of Gary, all of us are going to be at PAX East this weekend. I'm actually heading there on Thursday, and then you'll probably see us there from throughout the entire weekend up through Sunday. Definitely, if you guys are going to be out there at PAX East, you know, feel free to come say hi. Let us know. I think all of us, I know I am, I'm pretty sure you guys as well, are going to be live tweeting while we're out there. Going to be posting up stuff on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, probably more than likely. You'll be hearing from us, you know, what exactly we're doing, any other cool stuff. We'll probably be doing some streams out there. I'm pretty sure we're going to be doing some streams at one point. When we're actually, you know, after each day of PAX, we'll let you guys know specifically what's going down while we're out there. We're going to be seeing a lot of good games. We're going to be talking about a lot of great stuff on the next co-op when we get back eventually. It's going to be a lot of stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun things to kind of dive into. So definitely get excited about that. I hope to see you guys in Boston this weekend.
Absolutely. I want to give a shout out to all the Patreon supporters as well. Everybody that has been watching the show live, thank you for your participation. We do have quite a bit of things coming, as I've already mentioned at the start of this show. You know, I am going to be doing a GDC podcast maybe a little bit later this week, and then you guys will be able to get more insight on all the games I played. But in the meantime, there are a lot of previews that I'm writing. I'm actually writing as we speak, so look for all that stuff starting tomorrow on the website and throughout the week. But thank you all for the continued support. And Gary, your turn for final shout outs.
Yeah, I just want to say I will be at PAX East in spirit because you know, JJ is going to be seeing some cool Square Enix stuff. So I've told him he's got to text me when he plays Zodiac Age and all that stuff. So I'll be there in spirit, you know, championing Square Enix and stuff. But
oh no, I'll wait till you're done.
No,
I'll wait till you're done.
Okay, yeah, so I just want to shout all the Patreon supporters, and then I'm also going to reveal the winner of our Zelda competition. Shouts to everyone who supports us on Patreon. That's M. Collins, Sean Gority, Michael Hatcher, Steve Fearon, Mauricio, Himdil, Fergus Mills, Ledwin Leslie, Nicholas Alvarez, Nick Biazzo. Shouts to all you guys. All your support helps us, especially with trips like, you know, GDC and PAX East. You know, it helps us do our thing there and get more content to you guys. So we really appreciate that. And also, you know, in return, our Patreon supporters do get better odds at winning these giveaways because of that, you know, because of their support. And so the winner for, you know, there's Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is Stephen Fearon. So shouts to Stephen Fearon. Congratulations. We will be in touch with you very soon to get you that game. But what was you going to say, JJ?
No, I was going to say, because I think we could actually say this now and not get into any NDA territory or embargo stuff, that we could actually announce like some of the stuff we're going to put coming out of PAX East or whatnot. Because since you mentioned Square Enix, I think it's okay I could say this because I was just looking at some of my stuff. But we're gonna have a big interview at PAX East that's gonna be going up on the site. That will be able to probably be post when we get back, more than likely, depending on the time frame and stuff. But if you guys remember last year when I went to PAX East, I got to talk to Okayama-san for Kingdom Hearts Unchained Key, and that was a big interview, at least for us, that got passed around at one point. So we're going to be having a follow-up with him this year, where we're going to be talking about Unchained Key again. We're going to be talking about the new content and stuff, and then we're also going to be talking about some other Square Enix games down the line. So definitely, we'll detail more about that when we get back. But that's something for a lot of you guys to get excited about, especially if you're a Kingdom Hearts or a Square Enix fan.
Yeah, that's real cool, man. Can't wait for all that stuff.
Very cool.
But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Shouts to everyone who was in the chat today as well. I enjoyed the discussion from everyone. But yeah, that's it from me as far as shoutouts.
Absolutely. So thank you all again for your continued support. We have a lot of great content forthcoming, so stay tuned for that. And we will talk to you all next week. Not quite sure if we will have a show on Sunday because we will be coming back from PAX East, but either way, we'll be talking to you all very soon. If not, maybe we'll do a show on a Monday, so on and so forth. But we'll let you guys know. But thanks again for watching, and we'll talk to you all next week.
Peace.